channel for another Reddit video. Okay, so if you guys have been to my channel before, you know I've already had a look at all the most popular, well-known subreddits. We've had a little look-see through them, sometimes even revisited them. But admittedly, there has been one that I've been avoiding like the plague because it's just so miserable and it's full of so many awful people. And I personally think that this subreddit is a pit of despair, but people online seem to love it and the drama that it brings. So today, just for you guys, we're going to be on r/relationships. I would say that this subreddit's pretty similar to Am I the A-hole, but instead of people coming on and being like, yeah, I did this, am I in the wrong? They come on and they talk about situations that have occurred with the relationships in their life, like their partner or even their friends and family, and they say, hey Reddit, this happened today, I'm not quite sure what to do. And then the people of Redditors go all keyboard warrior and they're like, leave them, divorce them, cut contact, move away. And it can be pretty dramatic, but it does also have its points where people are very helpful and it's a wholesome moment. But before we get into today's video, if you like Reddit videos, then leave a like on this video, maybe even a comment and subscribe and you get more content like this. So without any further ado, I hope we're all mentally prepared, let's get into it. Our first post of today was posted by Bella Glade and it's called, My best friend is getting married and I don't think I like the person I've become around her anymore. I, 31F, have been best friends with E, 32F, since high school. We've been through everything. Moves, breakups, family drama, ride or die. But over the past years, as she's been planning her wedding, something shifted and I'm starting to feel like the worst version of myself around her. She's always been intense, a little bit controlling, but lately I feel like she's turned that up to 100. Everything's about her timeline. She texts me at about 1 AM about seating charts and gets passive aggressive if I don't respond fast enough. She makes these little jabs, like when I said I might not be able to make it to the bachelorette trip because of money, she said, well, some people prioritise what matters. I've started dreading her texts. I keep trying to hype myself up before seeing her, but then I feel small and snappy and bitter the whole time. I find myself being petty in ways I hate. I replay convos later and think, why did I say that? Or why do I let her talk to me like that? I'm not jealous, I'm genuinely happy she's happy, but I feel like I'm being sucked into her orbit again when my role is to support, agree, stay small and show up, and if I don't, I'm selfish or negative. I'm scared that saying any of this out loud makes me sound like a bad friend. She's not a villain, she's just stressed and excited and maybe kind of oblivious, but I'm realising I've been minimising myself around her for years. This isn't new, it's just harder to ignore now there's a wedding dress involved. How do you tell someone you love that being around them makes you feel worse about yourself lately? Can you even say that without destroying everything? TLDR, my best friend is getting married and has become super intense and controlling and I don't like who I am around her anymore. I'm scared to bring it up because I don't want to lose the friendship, but I feel small every time we interact. Alright, I'm going to be so for real here. It sounds like you just don't like your friend very much, and it sounds like you haven't liked them for quite some time, and that's not a problem. I mean, I can see why, because from the way you've described them, they don't sound like a very nice person at all. You see, what really stands out to me in this post is how you said like you've been minimising yourself for years for your friend, and that kind of tells me, or at least it gives me an idea of your friend being a very self-centered person for one. I mean, I could be completely wrong because this is a very short post. I don't know this person, I don't know you, but from the way you've described them, they seem almost self-centered and like they've got some sort of main character syndrome going on, and you feel as if like you're second constantly. And I will say, like, the way that you've chose to write this as well, you say like you have to stay small and agree and everything. It sounds like such a one-sided friendship to me, and I'm sort of getting the vibe that you don't really want to be in this friendship, but you feel almost like, is it the sunken cost fallacy? Like, you know, we've known each other this long, so why would I end the friendship now? But OP, I'm going to tell you one thing. You could have known this woman since you've been like 1 year old, but you don't have to put up with her, you don't have to be around her. If you feel the friendship no longer suits you and you're not happy anymore, you don't have to stay friends just because you've got history. And you know, maybe it's fair to say that the friend's behaviour is a result of the wedding stress, but from the way you've made it sound, this isn't just like a thing that's only just come up. It seems like they've always been a bit of a bad friend to you, but this wedding's sort of highlighting that. And how, like, she was passive aggressive about the fact that you may not be able to come to a bachelorette because you've got money troubles. Well, you said because of money. And she's saying, like, basically you should prioritise her, and I think that tells me everything I need to know about this person. Because if I was going to have, like, a bachelorette party and my best friend came to me and they're like, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'll be able to make it because of money, I'd be like, okay, well, you know, you're my friend, let's see if we can work around this and sort it, and if we can't, we could arrange something else, just us. But the fact that she's saying, like, well, some people prioritise what matters, she's trying to villainise you in a way, and I really don't like that. And I feel like that's just not something a friend does. I just feel like that specific thing highlights her lack of concern about you and her lack of consideration towards the friendship. And, you know, as people in these stories always say, like, what does her friendship bring to you? Because from what you've described, what it does bring to you is a lot of negative feelings and a lot of bad behaviour on your part. And I think if you chose to let this friendship go, I would not blame you. But of course, maybe the mature thing to do is at least attempt a conversation about it before you just cut her off. Okay, so we're just going to read through a couple of comments and see what other people are saying about this. So firstly we have a commenter, and they said, I had a friend like this who became unbearable when she was getting married. I finally couldn't take it anymore, so I quit as one of her 3 bridesmaids. She had a full week-long meltdown that accumulated in her threatening physical violence against me. I ended up blocking her on everything except text, and of course months later she was begging me to attend still as a guest. I held my ground, and I'm much happier without her in my life. Sometimes you don't realise how someone toxic can truly sap your happiness and energy. I think that commenter's right, to be honest. I mean, when you're around someone who's not a nice person, it has a negative impact on you and how you act. And, you know, not to be like all basic influencer, motivational speech type person, but you have to surround yourself with the energy that you want to be giving out, because if you're constantly surrounded by negative energy, it's going to make you negative, and it clearly is for OP. Another commenter says, geez, if a friend said, well, some people just prioritise what matters to me, I think my reply would have been, what the F did you just say to me? It's not a matter of her not being able to control herself because of stress. She wouldn't say that crap to her co-workers or boss, but she doesn't mind being that rude to you. Damn, okay, that's a really good point, but, I mean, it's right, innit? Like, the friend in this situation, I don't know them, I don't know, like, their life and the ins and outs of what goes on in their life, but we can safely assume they're not speaking like that to other people in their life. It's just too OP, and that shows, like, you know, they can control the way they speak to people and control what they say to people, but when it comes to OP, they're just choosing not to. And I think it's because, admittedly, OP's being a bit of a pushover and they're allowing their friend to talk to them like that, so the friend knows that, oh, I can treat OP badly and nothing's gonna happen. We have a reply to that comment as well, and this Redditor says, yeah, a lot of people are talking about being tactful to preserve a long-term friendship, but to me, a real friendship would be being able to say what I want in the moment rather than having to analyse and tiptoe around everything. If someone was bridezilla-ing me like that, I'd immediately say yeah, rent and feeling myself for the things that matter most. Any normal person who values your friendship would then come to the realisation, yeah, I'm being a monster here. An actual good friend cares about how you feel. Just having a friend for a very long time doesn't mean they're actually a good friend. See, that's kind of similar to the point that I was trying to make about, like, you know, like a good friend would never expect you to do something that you're literally unable to do. And they've made a really good point as well. Like, someone who values your friendship would be like, oh crap, like that was a bad thing to say. And, you know, like, just because you've been friends with someone for a long time doesn't mean you need to remain friends with them if they're speaking to you in this type of way. Another commenter says, I would take a step back from this friendship, especially after the wedding. I'm not saying ditch her, but I am of the opinion that friendships do not need to last a lifetime, and that is okay. The real reason all of us are friends is because of proximity. There is a connection when you've been friends with someone from a young age, and I think most people act like it was faith or something that kept you guys together this long. It is not. Sometimes people grow in different directions. I'm willing to bet this isn't the first time you've been annoyed with her behaviour. It has just intensified recently. It's okay to walk away from friendships or take mental breaks from it. And that's a really lovely put comment, and I'm not going to add much to it because I think it works as it is. I don't need to contribute to that. It stands as very good life advice for anyone who's watching this. Okay, we've got a really long comment here, so I'm just going to read this out. To me, it sounds like all these things about her have already bothered you, but the wedding is making it unbearable. I had almost the exact same scenario, except instead of a wedding, it was a vacation. During that vacation, she got so mad at me several times over very mild stuff. For example, my feet were hurting all day after walking in heels, so I said I was going to swap to my flats before dinner. She literally wouldn't allow me, and when I tried to fight it, she made me feel so small and dumb. Same with another night. My other friend and I wanted to stay in and watch movies and hang out. She wanted to drink and party, and since we didn't want to do the same thing as her, she got mad at us. Except she remained mad at me for the entire trip and didn't speak to me on our 9-hour drive home. I asked her what's up, could we talk, etc. She refused a conversation and said she wasn't mad. This was up until the point of getting back to my house. Those are some easy examples, but this was the style pattern for years, our entire friendship. At the beginning of the friendship, I thought, oh, maybe she's just trying to help me out of my comfort zone, but that wasn't the case. It was more so that if I didn't agree with what she thought or planned at all times, then I was the issue. If I tried to say no to something, I was belittled. It was to the point where I was dreading hanging out with her and had to hype myself up, and then I'd come home and be upset for days. As soon as I got home from the trip, I spoke with her about my feelings and wanted to talk about everything. She pushed me off for over a month. Eventually I told her I cannot hold a friendship in this space. It felt so bad. I felt terrible for weeks, but then I started to feel better and way more free. I did try to give her a few more chances, and after each time I left feeling empty and bad about myself, and she still has never addressed all the issues I brought up and begged to talk about. I no longer have her blocked on everything, but we barely interact anymore. She was my best friend for years, I assume for life, but I have so much less anxiety not having her as my best friend anymore. Now if I see her at group events or we talk for a few minutes, it's fine, but that's the extent of it. I think if she would give me a real and true apology, I would even consider being friends again, but I don't think that will ever happen. I will also add that once I told my friends from another friend group, they told me how relieved they were because they saw her treatment towards me for years and it was just not something I registered for so long. So all I say, if I were you, I would stop being her friend. A wedding isn't an excuse for anything, especially if she's treated you poorly before that. Okay, so that was quite a long comment. We had a little story within the story there, but I wanted to include it because I think it's important for people to see, like, that these type of friendships, they're not uncommon, like, they happen to a lot of people, and, you know, if you're, like, reading this with me, and you're in a similar situation to OP with a toxic friend, I thought it would be nice to include that comment, because then you can see, like, how it positively affects people when you leave these friendships behind, and how, you know, you can do it, it's fine, like, your entire life will significantly improve once you drop toxic people. And yeah, that's why I wanted to include that comment. Okay, so I did check on OP's profile to see if perhaps there was an update to the situation, but as of when I'm recording this, there is none. So unfortunately, we don't get to see if anything, you know, positive has come out of this yet, but, you know, I am hoping the best for OP. I hope that they can cut that toxic friendship out of their life, because they don't sound like a bad person at all. They seem like fairly level-headed and, you know, quite nice, because they're here worrying that, like, they're becoming a bad person, and that tells me, like, that OP is probably quite the sweetheart, so I wish them well. Okay, so moving on to the next post. This is by Sunscreen Lover. My parents don't think my 31M boyfriend is polite. I, 26F, have been dating my boyfriend 31M for about 2 years. We celebrated our anniversary in May. I can tell he really cares for me, but there are certain significant flaws I've noticed throughout our relationship. However, nobody is perfect, not even me. I recently brought him to meet my family a couple of months ago, and my parents have some thoughts. They were a little afraid to tell me, but I thought that I should know, and they recently called me to explain all of their opinions. 1. He didn't say please or thank you very often, and his responses sounded like commands. For example, my dad asked him if he wanted anything to drink, and he just said water. That was it. Not, sure, water please, or anything. More significantly, he joined the family for a nice dinner because my brother got a new job, and we wanted to celebrate. However, when the dinner ended and my family paid, he didn't say thank you to my parents. At the dinner, the waiter was clearing the plates, and he wanted the waiter to also clear his water glass. She told him that the meal wasn't done yet, so he should just keep it. He said just a curt, "Oh, just take it." My family and I were both a little shocked at his reaction because he could have been a bit nicer, like, "Oh, that's fine, I'm finished with everything." 3. Whenever he would leave the house, he would just exit the house and not say goodbye to anyone. Plus, when my best friend came to visit, he didn't even bother to say goodbye to her when she left. He told my brother to tell goodbye for him. 4. He didn't offer to help cook or wash the dishes or do any household chores. He just sat on the couch the whole time working. He works as a consultant and is pretty busy, and he left his dirty dishes in the sink. Of course, even if he offered, my family would never have actually asked him to help. That is customary of being a host, but it kind of irks me that he didn't even bother to ask. 5. My mum sent him some photos that she took of all of us at an event that we went to, and he never replied. Not even a simple thumbs up or a heart reaction. He did mention the photos in passing once, but it wasn't a thank you for the photos. This was kind of strange because he usually does reply to her. 6. I always have to remember to remind him to do certain things, like buy a small gift when coming to meet my parents, or sending them a message during holidays/birthdays. When I met his parents, I did not come empty-handed. He almost did. If it weren't for my paranoid ass double checking with him the day before. There were some other points, but I don't want to bog this post down with the smaller details that perhaps my parents were being too nitpicky about. They are very traditional immigrants. To clarify, I myself did see some of these habits while I was at home with him, and I tried to explain to him that he should be more generous and polite. He did end up improving on some of the points I made above, but I think that these were just too much to point out, as much of which is just common knowledge. My question is it worth trying to help him learn and grow these habits? It seems like he simply just never learned basic manners/habits from his parents. Even my parents said that he seems really sweet and like a caring guy, and he clearly has no bad intentions, but etiquette like this is pretty basic knowledge, and they were surprised that he didn't exemplify any of them in terms of our relationship. I'm not sure if this is something I want to end the relationship over, but I could definitely be swayed. There are other pressing issues that would influence me. TLDR, my boyfriend doesn't show basic manners/respect towards other people. Is this something I can work on, or is it an issue that will just grow over time, and should I leave this behind? Okay, so I'm looking at the points that the OP made, like, that their parents pointed out, and I think some of them are a little nitpicky, like, how they were complaining because he didn't offer to clean their house, but I don't think that one's entirely fair because he's literally working. I understand, like, if he's sat there, but he's doing work, and I feel like it's unnecessary to expect someone to clean your house when they've got other priorities. Like, I would consider the fact that he's dedicated to his work a good thing, but the point, like you said, where he just would leave his dirty dishes in the sink, I mean, if you've managed to get away from your work long enough to eat, you can quickly wash your dishes. That is quite rude. But that's probably the only one I can give him any grace for, because I'm looking at, like, the first point they made where he was just not saying please and thank you, and I'm not being funny, but we learnt the value of please and thank you when we were in primary school. That one would probably irk me too, especially like you're saying the way he says things, like he's saying, "Oh, just water." That's so rude. Not even like, I'd understand maybe not going, "Oh, can I have a water please?" Instead like going, "Oh, can I have a water?" Like, that's still so much more polite. Like, you don't necessarily have to say please and thank you to everything, but the way that you phrase your questions and the things you say really matters, and the fact, like, he never once said please and thank you is so strange and bizarre to me. And the second one would low-key make me so angry, the way he was so dismissive and rude towards the waiter. Like, the one thing I cannot stand about a person is someone who's rude to wait staff or customer service workers in general. I think it's the biggest, like, red flag in a character if you're rude to someone who's, like, doing a service for you, because it shows something deeper in the way that you treat someone who you think is below you because they're serving you, and people who are rude to them, it just comes across like you think that they're below you. And the third point, like, I'm trying to give him grace on it, because maybe he's just, like, not a very social person, maybe he's a little socially awkward, and that's why he's not saying goodbye to anyone, but I think, like, I'm imagining a scenario, I don't know if this is how it went down, but I'm imagining, like, the person who's leaving, they come into the room where everyone is, and they're like, "Okay guys, I'm heading out," and people are, like, saying their goodbyes, and he's just sat there, and that is a little strange. I think that is kind of rude, because, you know, I think it would be basic manners to go, "Okay, goodbye." Like, you don't even have to, like, get up and make a big song and dance out of it, just a quick goodbye. Like, that's literally all you have to do. And when your friend, someone who's important to you's leaving and he's just being really dismissive, saying, oh, tell them I said goodbye. Like, tell them yourself. Like, I'd understand doing that if you was in the middle of something or you didn't catch them on the way out. But if they're present and you could literally say goodbye yourself, I don't see why you wouldn't. And the photos thing as well, like, just leaving your mum on red after, she's like, because her sending the photos to him and not just to you, that's kind of like her trying to reach out. That's how I interpret that. Because she could have easily sent the pictures to the OP and been like, okay, you can just send them to your boyfriend. But she's chose to send them directly to him, and that could have been a nice way to be like, oh, thank you, like, thanks for taking the photos. And it feels like he's just sort of pushed away any attempt of a conversation or, like, building a relationship, and I don't like that at all. And it's even stranger as well because OP says, like, he usually does reply to her mom. So I think that, to me, I don't know if I'm thinking about it too deep, but the fact that when his OP's mom is sending those pictures over and he just ignores her, it's almost like he expects her to do that, and that's why he's not showing any gratitude. And I think that is, like, another sort of red flag in his character. The whole, like, showing up empty-handed thing as well, I don't think I really understand enough about that to comment on it, because in my adult life I've never really been in a serious relationship, so I wouldn't know if it's really customary to, like, bring something along, because anytime I've ever, like, met a partner's parents, it's been, like, very informal, because, you know, I've been young, so obviously you wouldn't bring anything. But I do know people tend to do that a lot. Well, I've heard of people doing that a lot, like, on social media. And, I mean, maybe, like, he just sort of grew up in a family that doesn't see that as a thing, but I mean, it's clearly important to you because you were reminding him to do that, and he could have, like, at a bare minimum, brought flowers just, you know, to ease your mind a bit, because it clearly matters to you to do that to someone. And after, like, thinking about all those things, like, I don't want to jump to any conclusions here, but it does kind of come across like there's some sort of incompatibility between the two of you. Like, you clearly have very different values and morals, and, I mean, the things he did that you've described here, they don't seem that extreme though. They seem like if you had a conversation you could work on this and fix things, but also it could potentially be a sign that you two just aren't right for each other. Like, there's clearly maybe some cultural differences between you two, and I think you definitely need to have a conversation to talk through this and see if, you know, you two actually do work together as well as you think. Oh, well, damn, the comments are just, like, flaming this guy. I mean, I've tried to be, like, understanding and reasonable, but everyone in the comments seems to be like, nah, this guy's awful, we hate him. Like, they've all got their pitchforks out, hunting him down. Yeah, okay, maybe I've been too lenient with this guy. Reading the top comment on this post, the commenter says, it's definitely something he can improve, but in order for that to happen, he needs to see the current state of things as a shortcoming and want to make that improvement. And I wouldn't necessarily expect much of a change as he's in his 30s and hasn't felt a need for change so far. Personally, I would be particularly put off by things like not saying goodbye to people when leaving the house or not saying thank you when your parents paid for dinner. That is such a basic level of politeness that I don't think it should even have to be communicated to an adult. Ultimately, you are the one who has to decide how big of a deal these things are to you, but I would find it stressful to have to worry about whether or not my partner is going to show basic politeness anytime we are with other people. Jeez, I, like, completely forgot the fact that this guy was 30, well, 31, I, like, brushed over that a bit, but yeah, it is quite shocking the lack of basic manners that a 30-something-year-old has. Like, you'd think by that point in your life you'd have sort of, you know, not down on the whole basic manners and etiquette thing, but clearly not. Another commenter said, they think he's impolite because he is impolite. Look, we're all stupid in our own special way. I'm implacably stubborn. My father is made of anxiety. It's whether or not you can live with this type of stupid, and it doesn't sound like you can. Regardless of why he acts the way he does, it's causing friction in your family, and if he lacks the social skills to realise he's upsetting you and your family, it's not going to be fun training them into him. Let him go. He can find the brusque queen of his dreams, and remember, you can break up with someone for any reason. You know, I think this commenter's right, to be fair. It does sound like it's causing friction in OP's family, and OP hasn't said anything that would make us think they're not close with their family, so I'm going to assume, like, you know, they're quite close-knit, and you don't want to be with someone that like there's this tension going on and they're upset by your partner, and I think it would be a valid reason for OP to leave them. And like the way OP was speaking in this story, I'm kind of getting the vibe that they are really more bothered by their partner's behaviour than they're letting on. And I feel like if it's bothering you, it could be like easily communicated and solved, but it also shouldn't have to be, because as a lot of people are pointing out, it's just basic common knowledge that he seems to lack, and you shouldn't have to teach him that. He's a grown man. And if you feel this is a reason that you can't be with him, that's valid. Like that commenter just said, you can break up with someone for any reason, and I think this is quite a valid reason. Another commenter shares a similar experience that they've had. They said, I actually broke up with a guy a couple of years ago, and one of the reasons was his lack of manners, similar to this. He was 36. I don't think I'm a stickler for pleasantries, but I don't enjoy being spoken to like someone is demanding things of me, and I'm always mindful of saying please and thank you, so I notice when someone doesn't say those things. That said, offering to wash dishes and help clean up isn't always as immediately obvious to people as something they should be doing as a guest in someone's home. It's not clear if this was a multiple day long visit or if it was just for the night. If you went to meet them for dinner, I wouldn't hold it against him if he didn't offer to help clean up. But if you were spending days at the house and he never picked up after himself, that's different. I'm also put off by people who are unkind to service workers, and not saying bye to guests before leaving is objectively rude. If these things are important to you, then you need to speak with him about it, especially considering your parents seem to recognise that he's kind, but maybe a bit misguided when it comes to being a guest in someone's home. If you think this is just a matter of not being taught these things from his parents, it is possible to fix that, but he's 31, and it's his responsibility to make that change. Does he act this way with you and others, or is it just something that you've noticed when he met your family? Yeah, that's right. I think maybe I'm going against the grain, but I don't think this is a bad, obnoxious person. I think at the end of the day, like, the parents aren't saying, like, we hate this guy, he's so rude and awful. They just recognise that despite him being, a generally nice person, he does lack some manners, and I could understand why people, on this comment section are really annoyed over it, because it is common knowledge, as, has been said a million times by now. But also, I think people are kind of jumping to conclusions about this guy a bit. He is kind of rude in some places, but to me, I'm kind of getting the vibe that maybe he's just really anxious. Maybe there's something else going on, in his head, and he just, struggles with social cues and basic stuff like that. And at the end of the day, what that person said, it's his responsibility to make that change. But how's he gonna know that he needs to make that change if you don't have the conversation with him? I understand everyone's probably thinking, I shouldn't have to tell him this, you shouldn't have to tell him this, blah blah blah. But if OP's right in their assumption, and this is just a result of his parents not really teaching him these things, it will take someone going, listen mate, the way you're acting, it's quite pathetic for someone your age, you need to fix it. And I think if you're his partner and you care about him and you want this relationship to work, then you should speak up and say something. But that being said, I could also understand, if seeing this side of him has just completely sort of, ruined it for OP. I get that as well. I can understand both perspectives. Like the commenter said, it's your responsibility to bring it up if it's bothering you. But it's also, if it's bothering you to the point where it's sort of made you look at him differently, then it would be valid of you to just end things. Another commenter says, my question is it worth trying to help him learn and grow these habits? He's 31 years old. He's a grown adult man. He should not need a younger woman to teach him how to be polite. He's had years to watch other people and decide what his manners should be. Does he treat his own friends and colleagues in the same way? He is rude. He is inconsiderate, leaving without telling people. His social skills are blunted in several areas, and I don't think you should sign up to be his teacher, mentor, or mother. I would suggest you reconsider this relationship. Okay, that's quite a harsh comment, I think. And I personally feel so torn, because I feel like his actions, yes, they are quite rude, and they lack, the basic manners and social skills that we should have as adults. And for a 31-year-old, yeah, it is appalling, to be honest, but I also feel like it is something that could be worked on. But then I also understand the commenters who are saying it's not OP's responsibility to, teach him manners. But I don't feel like, having a conversation and being like, listen, the way that you acted, I don't F with that. That's not okay. And I don't think that's necessarily you, like, teaching him manners. It's just saying, listen, that not good, don't do that. And I feel like, people are saying it's a basic adult thing to have these manners, but I also feel like it's a basic adult thing to communicate if you have an issue with how someone acted. I think if I was to approach a situation like this with a partner, after, like, seeing these things and being bothered by them, I would say, and probably just one time say, listen, these things you did, point out the things, they kind of, annoyed me. I weren't happy with that. I found it rude. And then, obviously, it's on him to then fix that behaviour, because I've done my part as an adult and I've communicated I was upset about the behaviour, and it's then his role to fix his behaviour and go, okay, yeah, I was kind of a douche. And if there wasn't change made from that and he didn't improve, then I'd leave him. I think instantly jumping to leaving without a conversation is a bit but also, like, if that's what the OP wants to do, then I wouldn't tell them not to. And this comment says, Grandma here, I think the lack of basic manners makes a person somewhat unlikable. They can be learnt though if a person is motivated and their basic intentions are good. You could say, in spite of your good qualities, I find your lack of manners and impolite behaviour off-putting, and it's starting to impact my feelings about you. His reaction/actions will tell you everything you need to know. And that's kind of like what I've just said. Like, I think you just need to lay it out. Just say you're unhappy with his behaviour, and what he then does, that will tell you everything you need to know. Like, if someone came up to me after I'd met their parents or something and they're like, listen, I think you were a bit rude, I'd apologise. I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, what exactly was it that was perceived as rude? And then next time I would make an effort to fix that. But if the OP's boyfriend in this situation doesn't, then it shows you, like, he is just rude. But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm very torn here. I feel like I'm going against the grain a lot in this situation, and I'm probably being way more lenient with this guy than people will be happy with. I just, like, don't want to assume the worst and be really negative, because I feel like I jump to conclusions a lot, and I'm trying not to do that here. But yeah, all these comments are so outraged, and I'm just here like, oh, but yeah, but okay. At the end of the day, like, it's OP's decision what they want to do. If they think this is a deal breaker, then it's a deal breaker, and anything that I've said doesn't really matter. And once again with this user, I did check for an update, but there is none, unfortunately. I think no matter the outcome of this situation, it's probably for the best regardless. Like, I think if OP communicates about this, it could potentially go in the direction of him realising that he was being a complete knobhead, and he fixes up his behaviour. And then, they live happily ever after. And, if not, they don't. And they end up breaking up. It could be like a proper eye-opener for that boyfriend, and he's like, okay, I've been a complete imbecile, I need to fix my behaviour in the future. And then, OP carries on with their life, and they're happy, and the boyfriend does the same. But regardless of, like, how that turns out for OP, I wish them all the best. But that is it for today, guys. This has been a slightly different post from what I'd normally do. Like, normally I'd go over quite a few posts, but for this one I decided to just do the two. I figured since we're on r/relationships, these posts, they deserve a bit more thinking, a bit of a deep dive, and I thought I'd have to be a bit more analytical and really get into the post. But you know what, a little yapping never hurt anyone, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Please do like, maybe even leave a comment, subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and until next time, bye bye.